All right, let's talk about one of the potentially the most overlooked areas in your office that affects your revenue cycle, right? Your billing cycle, your collections, okay? And that is insurance verification. Now, here's what happens, right? Some offices really have it down. They know exactly what they're looking for. And some offices, it's really quite simple. But a lot of times I see that insurance verification often gets done at the front desk, which can be totally fine depending on the size of your office. But the front desk person doesn't actually know potentially how to properly do insurance verification, right? So here's what happens. They get told to verify insurance. They're not actually sure what they're looking for. One of the most common mistakes that I see happening with insurance verification is they don't know or understand the difference between in-network and out-of-network, okay? Now, I know that sounds like, it seems so basic, but if you get a person, on your front desk, they are not necessarily trained to understand that, right? So they don't understand the difference between in-network or out-of-network, or they don't actually know whether your office is in-network or out-of-network with that insurance company, okay? So they pull the benefits, but maybe you're out-of-network, and they get the in-network benefits. So now we have a problem of the patient has different expectations on what they're going to get a bill for. A lot of the times when it looks like it's in network, it looks like the insurance company is going to pick up a lot of it, and then we find out it's out of network and it all went to deductible, right? And then the patient is upset, and you've lost that patient potentially in that office because they asked you what would be covered and what wouldn't, right? Because I'm a parent, I'm looking for what is my bill going to be at the end, right? And if I go into an office and they told me something that it, wasn't that way, I'm unlikely to return to them depending on the situation, right? So that's problem number one, right? And then the other problem becomes then, of course, the office is potentially not getting paid, right? Where you thought you were going to recoup it from the insurance company and then you didn't, and then maybe there's a breakdown later on and patient statements are too late to go out, or you don't hear from that patient again because they're upset and they were not expecting that bill. They're unlikely, or maybe not unlikely, but reluctant to pay the bill, right? So you wind up with this whole breakdown on the cycle just because insurance verification was not done properly, right? Or because the person who's being asked to do insurance verification doesn't really know how to do insurance verification, right? Because when are we taught this, right? The other thing that can happen is just not checking for specific codes. Like they call to do insurance verification and the front desk says, oh yes, it's covered, right? But the front desk doesn't know necessarily what's going to happen down the line or what may be prescribed or whatnot, and then they find out later on that wasn't covered, and then you have that cycle of patient is upset and whatever, right? So we want to avoid that as much as possible, because the best way to collect from patients is to get their agreement and understanding from the get-go and put that as close as you possibly can, their expectation of what they're going to be responsible for in the beginning, so that they know, right? A lot of times it isn't the amount that they're asking to be paid, but the fact that they're blindsided by it. And we want to avoid that as much as possible. So really making sure that whoever is doing your insurance verification really knows what to ask for is super important. And one of the best ways to do that is just simply a staff training, that all of your new staff go through in case they're required to verify insurance, and then a customized insurance verification form for your office that just tells them exactly what to ask, right? So that they get all of the proper information. It's customized for what your office needs, and then they, or your patient care coordinator, or however your office is set up, that person can then go over all the data with the patient so that the patient fully understands and everybody's working together as a team, and potentially that will hopefully prevent as many upsets from patients or from doctors when things don't get collected, and so on and so forth.